here we go.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to the show. This is episode number 264, the Jolliest of Joes. And that includes my co-host here today, Mr. Joe Borelli. What's up, Jolly Joe?
Hey, what's up, buddy? Yeah, when I saw the title, I was like, great, this episode is going to be all about me. I was so pumped. And then I realized it wasn't.
It's nothing about you. You're rarely jolly, but 'tis the season, Joe. So
that's not true.
We'll have to get you an ugly JFK sweater to wear for Christmas.
Okay. I'll wear it.
We could design one,
Yeah, talking about designs.
Yeah, which brings us to a point. So if you look underneath this here video, you should see, hopefully, our Spreadshirt shop where you can cop some merch from the Lone Gunman podcast and support the show and, represent your favorite podcast out there with some very cool stuff. And these are just the preliminary designs. We've got some really awesome, funny things coming. If they're still pending review. So, hopefully in the very near future, there will be some excellently cool designs coming, Joe.
Yes, sir. Maybe even of someone falling off a scooter.
Oh, most definitely. Most definitely. Yeah. And also a Jack Ruby, he just eat him and stuff. Mm-hmm. T-shirt, hat, hoodie, whatever you want to rep. So look out for that. Hopefully you see it under the here. If not, go check on the main channel page. It will definitely be there. Very cool stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, and I want to add that by supporting us by buying merch, we're not like going on vacation. We have big plans next year, including possibly going to different states to interview certain Martins and improving our stream quality, microphones, ton of things, but it's all going to go to moving this case forward, trips, getting Big Bad Bob to Lancer next year, things like that.
Yeah, how cool would it be to see the Lone Gunman podcast live at Lancer in Dallas? And, I think that'd be pretty cool.
That would be epic.
Definitely. We could do some more of the Unholy Trinity with Doug and Chuck live. I mean, the possibilities are endless. And I think it would be
definitely. And I have my cool Chuckocelli pen here I'm writing with.
That says the Lorenzo Hotel.
Oh, this one is the Ocelli one. Ocelli. Oh, and he's a great guy. He's a great guy. So
he is. We love Chuck.
Yeah.
Oh man, thank you, Typing Chimp. You much appreciated.
Yes, nice to see you in here. And we moved it back to 11 for now to watch my girlfriend's satisfaction. She likes sleeping in. And
how old is she, Joe? 17? I mean, come on. We're grown-ass adults here. Get your ass up and out of bed by 10.
She's older than I am. Let's put it that way.
Whew. Bless her little heart.
Yeah. I'm still determining if I got honey trapped or not, but that's TBD.
Is her name Marina?
No, but it ends with the same vowel letter.
Close, but no cigar. No cigarette for you, Joe Borelli.
Not a J. Martin, as far as I could tell yet, or a J. Martina.
Marina Martin.
Tell them about this story.
Okay, so quickly, I got a little excited. I was looking through some folders for John Martin Thorne, Marina's lawyer, and I came across a little excerpt about how James Herbert Martin was going to be able to open bank accounts for Marina and deposit money and withdraw money. And he came up with a solution by opening them in the name of Marina Martin, which Marina agreed to do. So, yeah, we have another Martin, Marina Martin. It's not a J Martin.
Yeah, and guess who helped her open that account, Mr. Rob? And we have this document in our Dropbox.
Who?
Mr. Harry to the Holmes.
He helped her open up a
He helped
P.O.
Martin,
box
and yes,
to receive
yes,
donations, but not
to receive checks, right? It wasn't the bank account, right?
Yes,
Right,
no.
yeah.
Yeah,
So,
two totally different things.
yeah, but also help from Harry Holmes is very interesting, and wonder what that PO box was under. But Marina Martin is the fact that they had a shared bank account named that. You know, Martin was promising to divorce his wife and be with Marina forever, and I don't know if it was just the money grab or.
Yeah, I don't know. You know, I'll just say this, folks, you're not going to want to miss our James Herbert Martin show because we have some delightful tidbits you have definitely not heard anywhere else. We couldn't do it in the Lancer presentation. So stay tuned for that. But today, we're going to be focusing on the jolliest of Joes, Jolly Joe Martin, and a couple other ones. Joe, who else are we going to touch on after we hit Jolly Joe here?
We're going to talk about a couple DPD officers, and the last is a surprise. I can't spoil it all now.
Close, but no vodka. I like that.
Not yet.
It's too early for vodka.
Yes, sir.
As I sip my coffee with vodka.
I thought coffee goes with whiskey. Isn't that like an Irish coffee? I've never done one.
I'm not Irish either, so.
Neither am I. I'm obviously Italiano. All right. Do you see what I am seeing, Mr. Rob?
I do see what you're seeing. Thank you, Joe, for bringing up that beautiful card for Jolly Joe Martin. So, folks, well, you pull it down for a second, Joe. I got to talk to the people. I want to look at the people. I want to see the people. There we go.
You're a man of the people.
So just a little preface, a little backstory here is how I stumbled across Jolly Joe Martin. And it was in the course of reading Joan Mellon's book, A Farewell to Justice. And, you know, I was scanning the appendix or the index for Jack Martin stuff. Because she's pretty much the only author that's really focused on Jack Martin at all. But so I'm in the index and I'm looking for Jack Martin, and I see Jack Martin, and I see Joe Martin. And I'm like, okay, who the hell is that? It's another J Martin name. I do know that. Excuse me. So I immediately went to that chapter and started reading, and what I read, I couldn't hardly believe it. So with anything else, you know, for a fantastical story, especially one that's told by Thomas Beckham, who is a known teller of tall tales, folks. But just because they're fantastical tales doesn't mean that they're not true. A lot of people would like for Beckham's tales to be not true. So I did a little digging on my own because he asserted that this Joe Martin fellow, he asserted a lot of stuff about him working for the CIA, getting kidnapped, helping him out when he was trying to get away from Garrison's probe in New Orleans. And, there's little things mentioned in Beckham's story that you could definitely go down rabbit holes with. So I did. So, all right, Joe, with that being said, let's dive down the rabbit hole of Jolly
Ooh,
Joe Martin.
my favorite thing to do.
Diving off scooters.
No, rabbit holes.
Okay. Now, a couple interesting things about Jolly Joe Martin is he was passed the baton when Johnny Carson left WOW radio station in 1951. Martin had been with the station since 1948, and he took over Johnny Carson's morning show, renamed the 590 Hour. Martin would spend hours going through newspapers seeking show content. Martin's breakfast band segment with sidekick Al Lamb at the keyboards claimed 53% of the radio audience in the early 1950s. Joe Martin became the station's major air personality, working hard and doing multiple shows. Besides his morning show, he would sometimes host a daily late night show, and on weekends hosted Saturday's breakfast bandstand at 7:30 a.m., followed by his Doing the Town noontime show. And as you can see here, sponsored by Quick Service Lawnmower Company. You can't make this stuff up, folks. Now, not only did he do radio, he also did TV. He hosted a daily show on camera called Snicker Flickers, where he would do funny dialogue and sound effects to go along with old silent movies, something like Mystery Science Theater 3000. And this noontime show was aimed at the many elementary school kids who went home for lunch and would tune in and watch this stuff while they ate their lunch and then went back to school. So, this guy was a pretty big deal in Omaha, Nebraska, which is kind of like being, a big deal in Death Valley, California. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah.
No,
But
I mean,
as we'll see, he became a much bigger deal.
Yeah. I mean, this guy was no slouch for sure. So let's get into what Beckham had to say, according to Joan Mellon, about Jolly Joe Martin. So Jack orders Thomas Beckham to go to a safe house in Council Bluffs, Iowa. And just across the bridge, Iowa being a state where Beckham, like Sandra Moffat, can avoid extradition to Louisiana. To avoid Jim Garrison's subpoena, Beckham moves back and forth between Omaha, Nebraska, and Iowa. The one person who helps him is a man named Joe Martin, a DJ at KOWH AM in Omaha. This Martin is a mild, unassuming man, a right-wing Republican who began in radio in the 40s, like I said, with Johnny Carson. And he was selected to compose the theme song for the 1964 Republican National Convention.
Wow.
That's just a random fact.
Doesn't sound like a thing for a minor guy in Omaha to be doing, huh?
Yeah, well, he was a man of many talents, Joe. Very talented.
Like myself.
He could do radio, TV. He could compose music, and apparently, save people from extradition.
Or not.
A lot of people at the radio station KOWH had Air Force backgrounds, according to Joan Mellon. The majority owner of this station, following the untimely passing of its owner, was William F. Buckley Jr., who you folks may have heard of. Think Firing Line with William F. Buckley Jr., a CIA-sponsored journalist, if you will, with a very questionable background. Most people don't know that William F. Buckley Jr. had a brother named Ross, and he lived in New Orleans in the 1200 block of Dauphine Street, the same street as Clay Shaw, folks. Ross also participated in the Friday night discussion groups at the Ryder Coffee House with Carrie Thornley and William Cuthbert Brady. Together with Brady, in 1962, Ross Buckley organized something called Fair Cuba Committee. Not Fair Play for Cuba Committee, but Fair Cuba Committee. Yeah, like I said, you can't make this stuff up. These connections just keep going on and on. So the station manager is a guy at the time named Mike Starr. And from his employees, Starr hears of secret phone calls to Joe Martin and whispered conversations. Martin would disappear with no explanation for hours at a time. He is, in fact, involved in shielding and protecting garrison witnesses and helping them avoid his subpoenas. After he hears from Thomas Beckham, whom he has now ordered to shield, Joe Martin confided in Mike Starr. He is running a CIA safe house. He reveals Starr, a young graduate of the Georgetown School of Law, which will come into play later, so put a pin in that, who serves as a judge advocate general at Offutt Air Force Base, raises an eyebrow. It sure does.
Yeah.
Because if you
want the
look
slide
all
up,
into
Bob?
the stuff of Thomas Beckham, what's that, Joe?
Do you want the slide up right now?
No.
Okay.
Thank you.
Just making sure.
Where was I? So if you know anything about Thomas Beckham and his story about Fred Lee Chrisman, he tells of Fred Lee Chrisman taking him into Offutt Air Force Base and getting the grand tour, being treated like royalty, and talking about Project Looking Glass. But anyway, back to Beckham. At the safe house, Martin says he has been recording the stories of those he is shielding on tapes he plans to play on the air on KOWH. Mike Starr feels he will lose his FCC license over this or be prosecuted and tells Martin absolutely not. And a little while later, well, 6 weeks later, one night there was a loud banging on the door of radio station KOWH, and everybody in there but Mike Starr and Joe Martin has left for the evening. The porch lights on, and through the circular plate glass window, Mike Starr sees two men standing there in trench coats. He opens the door a crack and tries to prevent them from entering. Flashing badges with photo ID cards, they brush past Starr and proclaim CIA, one of them says. CIA, Starr says, in Omaha? Now, meanwhile, Joe Martin has bolted from the studio and raced down to the basement fallout shelter. In pursuit, the government agents grab him. One clutches his right arm, the other his left, and they drag old Jolly Joe off into the night. Where are you taking him? When will he be back? Starr asks him. We don't know, one of the men says, and they disappear. And when Starr telephones, the CIA denies that it has any men on the ground in Omaha, Nebraska. Now, Beckham believes that one of the men must have been Fred Lee Chrisman because suddenly there he was. Beckham says, I might as well return to New Orleans. I can lie or say nothing. Fred says, you might say something you shouldn't say. Smart as I am, even I make mistakes. So Beckham returned to New Orleans to testify before the Orleans grand jury, the Orleans Parish grand jury. And Chrisman sent him one message through Bob Lavender. If I'm subpoenaed as a result of anything you say, I'll kill you. So 3 days after Joe Martin disappeared, was taken off into the night by the CIA agents, Mike Starr, station manager, received a phone call from the psychiatric unit of St. Mary's Hospital. Did he want to pick up Joe Martin? I guess he did. And when Starr arrived, Jolly Joe was cowering in a corner of the room, unshaven and disheveled. Martin tried to talk but could not remember anything about the last 3 days. He would be unable to ever go on the air again, according to Joan Mellon. All he would say when he finally could speak was that he had been working with somebody who had tried to get away from him. So, with everything, there's a lot to unpack with that little story. While it's maybe 2 pages in a book, there's a lot of information there that can be verified or unverified. So, I went checking. Did this Mike Starr person exist? Yeah. Yeah, is this a real guy? Turns out he's a real guy.
I mean,
did William F. Buckley own that radio station? He did. Did William F. Buckley have a brother who lived in New Orleans on Dauphine Street? He did. And so, one small thing here.
Here is the graphic of Mr. Starr right here.
Yeah, we'll get to him more here in a minute.
I just wanted to bring it up quickly.
Yeah, thank you. So Joan Mellon stated that Jolly Joe Martin would never be able to go on the air again. But after some checking, I found out that Jolly Joe did go on to have a long career and managed to be on KHAS TV in the 70s and 80s and KMVT TV in Twin Falls, Idaho, and passed away in 1995. So, even the great authors can be wrong, can get stuff wrong. That's why it's always good to fact check things, folks. Now, some interesting things about this radio station. Came across, there was a lightning strike happened in June of 1967 that caused enough damage to take the station off the air for a few weeks in August. The outage delayed the start of a new format planned for September 1st. After returning to the air, the program change was further delayed until October 1st while waiting for new stereo tape equipment to arrive. KOWH-FM returned to the air with a classical jazz fine arts format, and Joe Martin was given an afternoon show called Martin at His Best, afternoons 1 to 3, that featured poetry readings and interviews with fine arts personalities. Sounds thrilling, right? But the interesting thing here is that Joan Mellon actually says in her book that during the time that the station was off the air due to this lightning strike, that Jolly Joe was playing his assassination tapes, basically on a very short radio wave, very low signal. So maybe if you lived within a couple miles of the station, you got to hear some crazy stuff. So there's that. So how reliable is Thomas Beckham? That's the question. Well, so far, what he's told Joan Mellon checks out. And in 1978, HSCA investigators Robert Burris and L.J. Delsa received permission for the polygraph of Thomas Edward Beckham. Richard Hunter of the New Orleans Police Department and a former partner of Burris did the polygraph at no cost to the committee. Was he being truthful? Burris and Delsa asked Hunter as soon as it was over. Delsa had believed Beckham because he always made distinctions when he didn't know something. He said so. With liars, Delsa had discovered from years in homicide, water swells over the levee without control. Beckham says he told Burris and Delsa the truth. So, after 2 days of going over the results, Hunter revealed his conclusion. He discovered no deception. Asked whether Fred Lee Chrisman had conveyed him into secret areas where you needed security clearance, Beckham said that he had. The machine revealed no deception. Did Chrisman bring him onto Offutt Air Force Base? Beckham said yes, and there was no sign of deception. This guy is amazing, Hunter said. Despite Beckham's lack of any formal education whatsoever, he was a very intelligent man. Now, for those of you out there not familiar with Beckham's story, I don't think he had anything past like a 4th or 5th grade education. Beckham resembled no liar Hunter had ever encountered, and he was telling the truth. Like Oswald, Burris and Delsa concluded Beckham had been a young, uneducated kid grabbed up by intelligence. Now, the next day, on March the 10th, Delsa and Burris were summoned to Washington by their immediate supervisor, Cliff Fenton. They were questioned separately, then charged with conducting an unauthorized polygraph examination. They had questioned an important witness with CIA connections, zeroing in on truths that the compromised CIA-controlled committee cannot tolerate. I looked you right in the eye and requested permission for the polygraph, Burris told Gary Cornwell. Did I give you a specific reply? Cornwell shot back. Would it be fair to say that by not replying while I looked right at you, that you took that as tacit approval? Cornwell denied he had ever heard the request for permission to administer a polygraph to Beckham. When Delsa supported Burris, Cornwell scanned the horizon for a suitable scapegoat. And this came in the form of Jonathan Blackmer. Anyway, there would be no investigation by the HSCA into Fred Lee Chrisman, who had died in 1975. And Burris and Delsa were punished with a 2-week administrative suspension. Blackmer was also suspended, and grudgingly on March the 13th, 1978, the committee constructed an after-the-fact paper authorization of the polygraph so that Burris and Delsa could be reimbursed for their airfare in bringing Beckham to Louisiana for the polygraph. So, interesting stuff here, Joe.
That is crazy.
Yeah. And for those of you not familiar with the story that Beckham told the HSCA, I would highly recommend you going and checking it out, because if you think this story is crazy, wait till you hear that one from Thomas Beckham.
Fred Lee Chrisman was protected from the highest levels. And
the HSCA did not want to hear anything about what Beckham had to say whatsoever.
Yeah.
So I found this other little tidbit when researching into KOWH radio.
Do you want me to bring that up, Rob?
Yeah, you can.
Okay.
While Joe gets it up. For a contracted number of weeks in 1962, not that. Bill Doelle hosted an hour-long show called the Cameo Coffee Club, live from the Crossroads Shopping Mall cafeteria at 10 a.m. It featured interviews, prizes, free coffee and donuts for shoppers, and fashions. Now, a lot of you out there are probably thinking, okay, who the hell is Bill Doelle? Well, let's just say I recently did a deep dive into William Doelle called Big Man, Little Horse a couple episodes ago on the Lone Gunman podcast. So go back and check it out. But I'm going to tell you all here today a little bit about William Doelle. So Jack Martin at various times had been associated with William Wayne Dalzell, and also W. Guy Bannister, a former bureau employee who operates a private detective agency in New Orleans, Louisiana. William Dalzell claims to be an American Indian native of Oklahoma who has been arrested in New Orleans, Louisiana for fraudulent checks, and one time was accused of stealing a valuable ring from a woman with whom he was living with in New York. He was not charged with this offense. Dalzell also claimed in the past to be an oil promoter, an independent oil promoter, Joe, and working for various oil companies in Arabia and Ethiopia. Now, Dalzell, Bannister, and Grady Durham were active in the formation of the Free Voice of Latin America, which was formed on December the 5th, 1960, to transmit information via shortwave radio to the people of Cuba. Durham is possibly identical with a former assistant collector of the U.S. IRS in New Orleans, and according to Jack Martin, holds the rank of major, either in the Louisiana National Guard or the U.S. Army Reserves.
We did him as colonel, so maybe he got a promotion.
Yeah. It has been established that Grady Durham is missing from New Orleans, and there is a criminal charge filed against him for misappropriation of a client's funds. In view of the current charge outstanding against Grady Durham, the information supplied by Jack Martin regarding the manner in which he disposed of Durham's files will be furnished to Jim Garrison, District Attorney of the Parish of Orleans. Now, okay, this establishes that Dalzell was from Oklahoma. He had ties with all these colorful characters in New Orleans, some anti-Castro organizations, and the Free Voice of Latin America, which was a shortwave radio operation. But he was also on WNOE radio station as a newscaster from November the 1st, 1960 till, it says, the present. And I'm trying to find when this document was January 30, 61. So he'd been employed as a newscaster for at least a year, almost two. Previously, he worked as a statewide bail bondsman. And I'm not sure if this is the same organization that Hardy Davis worked for as a bail bondsman, who dropped a dime on Jack Martin, who dropped a dime on David Ferry. But if it was, that'd be crazy. So yeah,
Thank you, John
guy,
Naylor.
Yeah. Thank you, John.
I think
you are the man.
I think my there's an apparent front runner in my nickname.
Joey Scars.
Yeah, I was gonna put that on my instead of Joe B, but we're gonna wait till the listeners of Quick Hits give their opinions first.
Yeah, I've heard from a lot of people they like the Scars better than Scabs.
You didn't tell me that.
Scabs are gross. Scars are respectable.
Yeah, and it sounds like mafios. You know?
Yeah, Joey Wounds.
No, that sounds not like negative. Joey Scars means like you prevailed. You got scars from your battles.
Yeah, you did something. You did something, yeah.
But thank you for the super chat, John.
Absolutely.
Pray continue, sir.
Yes. Now, Dalzell was no slouch. Mr. Dalzell actually went to Georgetown School of Law, majoring in languages. He spoke 6 of them. And I believe that is where Mike Starr also went to university, right? Now in Well, in 1961 here, there was a woman. Well, let's go back a little bit. Sorry. Going back into the late 50s with William Dalzell, I have here an office memorandum to the director of the FBI from the special agent in charge of Butte, Montana. Now, you might remember, folks, the ones out there paying attention, that Guy Bannister was at one time the special agent in charge of Butte, Montana in the late 40s. Not at this time when they're looking for Billy Wayne Dalzell. They were looking for William Wayne Dalzell for violation of the Registration Act, whatever that is. They placed a cover on his mail on his wife, who they did track down, but she refused to cooperate with them to find her husband. So when they were talking to him, I believe, I can't remember what this was for. Might have been the Garrison grand jury. But they asked Dalzell, what languages do you speak? Arabic, Spanish, Italian, Joe, a little bit of Ethiopian, French. There's a remarkable variety of languages.
Five languages?
Well, he spoke 6.
6.
They didn't list them all there. I mean, you got to include English too, I guess.
Yeah, of course.
And he was American Indian, so he might have
spoken
known
German.
some, what do you call them? Grunts and howls. He says, I majored in languages at Georgetown University in Washington, D.C., and he was a diplomat in foreign relations. When did you finish at Georgetown? In 1953, sir. Where did you go to work when you finished Georgetown? To Peru, South America. For what employer? Independent. Have you ever worked for the United States government? I did. During what years? 51 to 53. Just those 3 years? Yes. What kind of work did you do? Consulting. So
those dates.
Yeah. So, there's a lot of speculation that William Dalzell was some kind of a CIA operative in New Orleans at the time that, Oswald was there, Bannister's and up and running, and all this other crazy stuff was going on in New Orleans. He's there. And it's crazy that he's associated with this radio station, where all this was happening. And, went to Georgetown, where William F. Buckley went. And, I'm sorry, not William F. Buckley, the station manager, Mike Starr. So getting back to the radio station real quick. And, Joe, you can go ahead and pull up that graphic for the book, because we're going to get into Mike Starr a little bit here. So William F. Buckley paid in 1964 $822,000 for this Omaha radio station. To me, that's a lot of money for one radio station in Omaha in 1964. Yeah, that's crazy. Let's see. In 1969, 69er, Radio Free Omaha sponsored the Grateful Dead, appearing at the Music Box. The Music Box was a popular live music venue with a dance floor and a bowling alley at 118 North 19th Street. It closed in 1980. But again, you have possible CIA ties with the Grateful Dead and MK Ultra and LSD and all of that.
Jolly Joe getting dosed out of his mind for the 3 days.
Yeah. More than likely they took him and, put the Grateful Dead on a loop and put about six squares on his tongue and set him in a dark room somewhere for a couple of days. Poor Jolly Joe. All right, so let's get into the
after that
Star Broadcasting Group. William F. Buckley and Mike Starr and Peter Starr, his brother. He had known the Stars from growing up in Connecticut, Joe. And, they lived right down the street from William F. Buckley and would spend summers working aboard Buckley's 62-foot sailing yacht. Yeah, you heard that right. 62-foot sailing yacht.
That is a big yacht.
As the years passed and the boys and their boss grew closer, the young men even adopted Buckley's conservative political philosophy. When Peter Starr graduated from college in 1964, he went to work as a salesman for an Omaha radio station owned by Buckley's National Review magazine. And in 4 months, he was promoted to manager of the station. In 1970, Buckley backed Starr in organizing what rapidly grew into a multi-million-dollar communications conglomerate called the Star Broadcasting Group. Starr, only 28 at the time, was generally described as brilliant, and Buckley, in one of his books, said of his partner, "I have that special affection for Peter I reserve for people who make me $1 million." Now, Peter Starr is suing Star Broadcasting for breach of contract. So, in the late 70s, folks, William F. Buckley screwed over the Starr brothers in their business dealings and left them holding the bag for millions of dollars and fines to the SEC, which led Mike Starr to write the book that you see here on the right side called What a Friend We Had in Bill, William F. Buckley Jr. and the Rise, Betrayal, and Fall of Star Broadcasting. Now, for the sake of time, I don't have time to get into this book today, but if you want a good read, folks, head to Amazon and find it. Mike Starr passed away, I believe it was in 2015 or so. But he went on to have a nice long life, but very, very still pissed off at William F. Buckley many years after the passing of William F. Buckley.
Pissed off enough to write a book about it, and that's pretty pissed.
Yeah, and somebody left me holding the bag for millions of dollars, and I'd be pissed too.
Yeah. So the next one is the Mac little tidbit there. You want me to go to that?
Yep. And so in the course of digging into all this Midwest radio history from the 40s and 50s and 60s, and believe me, it's a long rabbit hole, folks, I came across this little tidbit. Of course, the name popped out of the page at me when I read it. Gary Mack was on KOIL in 1965, which was another radio station in Omaha. And he went on to become Gary Gears at WLS Chicago. Now, one possibility is a young Gary Mack growing up in the Chicago suburbs in the 1960s heard Gary Mack on the radio in Chicago and wanted to pay homage to him by stealing his moniker when he became a DJ and TV personality in Dallas many, many years later. So I thought that was a pretty cool find for that.
It indeed is very interesting.
Yeah.
So,
and I think that's about all I have on Jolly Joe there, Jolly Joe.
Oh, Who was more jolly, Jolly Joe Martin or Jolly Joey Scars?
Oh, hold on. I do have one more thing. My bad. My bad.
Okay.
So at the core of it, of investigating all this stuff, I went down some mafia rabbit holes, and I came across an FBI document regarding the Marcellos and the Vitaris and the Romes and the Salvadors and the Trapanis and all kinds of good stuff. But number 6 on their list here of things to do concerning land dealings with Marcello, it says, we'll locate and interview William Wayne Doelle, subject of New Orleans case 105-1503, who allegedly relayed an offer from Marcello to the New Orleans unit of the Cuba Revolutionary Front for a contribution of some $200,000. Bureau authority granted for the interview with Doelle per bulle dated 4/26/61 and entitled Carlos Marcello, aka Anti-Racketeering. Now, what's interesting is also on this list is Ernesto Rodriguez, manager of the Berlitz School of Languages, who was contacted on 12/9/1960. Now, this is the guy who claimed to have a tape of Oswald discussing the assassination, and a Mrs. Tina Herlinger, World Trade Development of the International House, New Orleans.
That kind
That's
of
the
brings us
international
back.
trademark.
That kind of brings us back to our last episode, and Mr. James Wilford Martin, who worked as the port director at the trademark. So that is interesting.
Yeah. And lastly here, Joe, it says the above sources were contacted by special agents Ernest C. Wall Jr. and take a wild guess at who the other one is.
I'm sorry, say that again.
New Orleans FBI agents. The above sources were contacted by special agents Ernest C. Wall Jr. and
Warren DeBreeze.
Ding, 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 ding. Winner, winner, chicken dinner for Joe. Warren C. DeBreeze.
What do I get? A free shirt?
No, free Band-Aid.
I already get free Band-Aids, as we talked about.
God bless that Ethiopian front desk clerk. The bearer of Band-Aids.
Ethiopian? Because that then would correspond with Doelle. And speaking of Ethiopian, we might have another connection there.
Yeah, he could have sweet talked her.
I mean, did he
right out of her loincloths? Or whatever they wear over there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that is a fascinating story, Rob. And that was one of our 3 Martins we decided to focus in on during our condensed Lancer presentation. And we had a lot of time. Rob had a lot of time fitting that into 15 minutes. So I'm glad he was able to expand on that here. It is kind of more deep in the weeds, but it is nonetheless a fascinating story. And it deals with players in the assassination, New Orleans, Beckham, and all the screwery that was going on around then.
Yeah, like I say, it's a crazy story, but it's definitely one that needed to be deep diving on.
Yeah.
Deeply dived on.
Yes. Unless you want to deep dive on something like medical evidence for the millionth time.
Yeah, no, thanks.
Okay.
When you get little details like this to the stories and you actually go digging in sources that have nothing to do with the Kennedy assassination, that have never been looked at before, like I forget what that name of that book is called, Joe, that I found, but somebody wrote a book. We thanked them in the credits. On the history Omaha radio. And that's actually where I got a lot of my information from. So kudos to whoever that guy was. if you write 200 some pages on the history of Omaha radio, I mean, it even went back to Jolly Joe's humble beginnings, working in a theater on the street and announcing show times through a megaphone. That was like his first job ever. Like, hey, over here we got Titanic starting at 2:15. Step right up, get your tickets here. Those were the days.
Yeah, I love myself a good Titanic theory.
Sorry, that's the first movie that popped in my head.
It's okay.
I don't know why. What does that say about me? I don't know.
What does that say about me that my girlfriend, every time Titanic comes on, I can't shut it off, and she thinks that's weird. And
probably because she wishes you'd slide away like Leo at the end of your story.
I was like, why couldn't they both fit on that fucking door?
Jack,
they could have both fit on that door. Rose could have saved him. All right, so let's stop our tomfoolery here. And would you like to move on to?
We got more Martins to get into, Joe.
Yes.
And so let's do it.
I figured,
in the immortal words of Tone Loc.
Yes, sir. And I figured since we started with Jolly Joe, we would go to a different Joe, and that is Mr. Billy Joe Martin, which
BJ
Martin, and that
nickname
is
Hummer.
His beautiful picture on the right, and he was, of course, the motorcycle cop to the back left rear of the JFK limo across from Hargis, and who was on his right. And Billy Joe Martin had blood and brain tissue all over his helmet and uniform, and says JFK told him not to stay in close formation immediately to the rear of the limo. And I think all those Secret Service JFK said to keep back, all that stuff is very manufactured, in my opinion. Says he was 5 feet back and 6 to 8 feet to the rear of the left bumper, which would indicate a shot from probably not the back, if you know anything about trajectories, unless there was a huge wind.
Know anything about what? Know anything about what, Joe?
Trajectories and
trajectories. Okay.
Yeah, did I say that right?
Don't think you did the first time.
I did the second time though. Pronunciation.
Pronunciation.
Motherfuckers.
Liberty Liberty.
Oh boy, here we go.
And yeah, folks, there is a Liberty Liberty shirt in the merch store with the Liberty Lobby logo on it. It's pretty sweet.
Yes, so let me get back to this slideshow that just jumped. I was going to say, what does everyone have as their over-under for how many times I screw up the PowerPoint? But
3-1.
How many?
3-1.
3-1.
3-1 odds.
3-1 odds. Well, the issue is that sometimes you have to open it and close it for it to not jump. But what are you gonna do? All right. So we started with the Billy Joe segment that I will bring up right in a second here.
Billy Joe is not my lover.
While I pull this up, look what I acquired, Rob. Can you see?
Wow, a vintage Life magazine.
It is of Oswald's full Russian diary from him and Marina.
Hold that up one more time, Joe.
Sure. Let me know.
That is a great picture.
$12.
Marina's perky tits.
Ooh. Yes, we need to consult our boob expert, Mr. Horny.
We'll change the name of the show to The Perkiest of boobs.
Yes. Okay.
Yes.
Give me 1 second here.
You know, James Herbert loved them things.
Oh yes, and Mr. Martin Thorne, which will be both a topic in new episodes. But Rob and I also want to talk about how we are going. Listen, we understand this Martin thing is a lot to take in, so we are going to be doing. This is a good time to tell them, Rob. A little break, not a break, but another non-Martin episode / interview in the coming week.
A brief reprise, if you will.
Yes.
A midweek surprise for all of you. We'll still be
Yes.
back here next weekend talking Martin shit. Don't worry about that.
Of course.
But we'll give you a brief reprieve.
Yes. Okay.
And if all goes well tomorrow, it'll be a very good. It won't be a live show because we're actually doing an interview. But it will be video. And we'll probably plan on putting that out Wednesday. But it's definitely wild and wacky. So stay tuned for that.
Yes, and we have some really cool guests in the lineup upcoming after we finish this Martin thing. So
in the pipeline, baby.
Yes, that's what they call it, or what?
Big swinging dicks.
Oh boy.
Of the JFK community.
Some maybe.
I'm talking about future guests, not us.
Oh my God. All right, we're over under.
I hear a lot of clicking going on over there, Joe.
My screen's not sharing yet?
No. That's a negative.
Good.
Okay. Negative, Ghost Rider.
Well, give me 1 second. 3, 2, 1. Well, as we were going through DPD, obviously we just talked about Billy Joe Martin. We came across this this file. I believe it's from the HSCA, but we have it screenshotted. But there was apparently another motorcycle cop named J.D. Martin, according to key person files on DPD officers in 1963.
So, Jimmy Dennis Martin.
Was this Billy Joe or just another Martin coincidence, Mr. Rob? Or a typo, but B and D are not really close to each other on the...
Well, BJ is far different from JD. I could see if it was DJ and they mixed up JD, but BJ and JD, two totally different things. So this is probably another guy in the motorcycle division. And
so we have two Martins.
They have little substations all over Dallas that cover different areas. So
2 J Martins in the motorcycle squad of the DP. Okay. That's definitely a coincidence.
And Jimmy Dennis.
Yes, Jimmy Dean. All right, next, let's move on to our... This is not a J Martin, I'm going to warn you, but it is a Martin, and it is Captain Frank M. Martin. And his story
he looks like a dick.
Oh, we have another picture coming. And this is a little picture of him on his left. He ran the juvenile division for the DPD, but also had 25 detectives, a few patrolmen. He had power in the DPD, right? And this little snippet is from Walt Brown's chronology. Frank Martin is somewhat unique in that during his Warren Commission deposition on March 24, 1964, he told Warren counsel Leon Hubert that there were things he should not state for the record, but from context, they related to Ruby transfer and not teenager with some pistol, which I have no idea what they're talking about with teenager with some form of pistol. But I'm going to bring you here to the Warren Commission snippet of Mr. Frank Martin. So they're asking him about the basement and how Ruby got in there and all that good stuff. And he admitted to knowing Ruby earlier in the his testimony. Now, Captain Martin, Mr. Hooper, says, is there anything else you would like to say concerning any aspect of this matter at all? This is Captain Martin. I don't take this down. So he doesn't even say, can we go off the record? He totally fumbles. Well, and then he gets interrupted. If you don't want to say it on record, you better not say it at all. So what does that say about the Warren Commission and what their agenda was? There is a lot, Captain Martin then states, there is a lot to be said, but probably be better if I don't say it. Well, I don't know what you mean. And he goes, that it would be better that, and he cuts him off and just cuts off that conversation completely, right? That where he was going with that. So,
yep, and it goes nowhere.
It goes, and they start talking about other, not significant things. So, Mr. Captain Frank M. Martin happened to be on the list, and this actually corresponds with our previous episode when we talked about Ruby's first lawyer, Tom Howard, dying on March of 65, 2 reporters dying in 64, in April and in September, blow to the neck. That's the accidental shooting by policemen. That's like a Dick Cheney incident. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Oh, the gun just fell on, blow to the neck. I think you mentioned that. Heart attack. And at the bottom, Captain Frank Martin, 666. I don't like
the
number.
Devil.
Dallas policeman who witnessed Oswald slaying told Warren Commission, there's a lot to be said, but probably better if I don't say it. Sudden cancer. I mean, I think this is from Penn Jones's list, right?
But, he got that sudden cancer. It was sudden. Just came on all of a sudden. Out of nowhere.
Yeah, right. Similar to someone else. But that relates to this exact story. But it is very interesting, and we would be remiss to not mention him and his kind of going off the official narrative on the record. And, as you could see, let me see if I can bring up the next slide without effing this up. Oh, no, I can't. I didn't. He's a very interesting character and obviously did not make it long past 66, along with a long list of people. Ignore Dorothy Kilgallen because that's the joke. So we are now going to move on to another Martin, and that is Rolando J. Martin. He was the owner of Martin's Cafe. When Oswald worked at the Riley Coffee Company, he always ate lunch at Martin's Cafe. So here we have Oswald eating at Martin's Cafe, cashing his checks at Martin's Cafe, JFK writing his speech and proposing to Jackie.
Joe.
Yes.
What street was Martin's Cafe on?
Martin's Cafe was on... Was it on Decatur or was it on...
No, it's right here on this graphic. I just want to hear you say
it. I'm not sure what you're getting at.
Give me a hint. What street was Martin's Cafe? It's the second line.
Oh my
slide. God.
You're setting me up for failure.
I am.
Okay.
What street?
Chichupichalachulus.
To who?
701 Chicho
Chipitalus Street.
Chipitalus.
Chipitalus.
1 block from Riley. And, Oswald cashed all but 2 of his payroll checks from Riley's at Martin's restaurant, where he ate lunch nearly every day and was remembered by Roland J. Martin. Anthony Martin, who was his son, said usually Oswald ordered a hamburger. That means it's not of relevance. But here's the graphic. I think we showed it briefly on our Jack S, or actually on our intro on November 22nd. And you could see here that they did, Lee did cash a ton of checks at Martin's restaurant, some endorsed by the restaurant, some endorsed by Roland Martin, and we came across a couple that were endorsed by Rose Martin, which was his wife. So that led us down an interesting path, and that was Rolando. And
Rolando.
we are going to tease you here because we have another J. Martin, and his name is Eugenio Rolando Martinez, a lifelong CIA agent, was very much active in 63, known J. Martin alias. This is just a screenshot from a document from the 70s, trying to figure out which Martin aliases were his, but it was known that he had a J. Martin alias, and with that, we are going to tease our next segment because we, Rob and I, have some very interesting J. Martins. If you've seen our Lancer presentation on locals or in person, you'll know what we're talking about, of some Watergate burglars that have J. Martin aliases.
Burglars.
So it's and we looked into, so we tried to see was Rolando J. Martin Eugenio Martinez, and we tried hard to do it. We wanted it to be, but we couldn't. Right? We found no evidence yet.
Yeah.
But we implore people's help if they want to look into it and email us at thelonegunman@gmail.com. Or join us on locals and start a conversation, and we can rationally debate it. The middle name sticks out to me. I had a little feeling about it, but per the documents, we weren't able to tie it together. But though I think that gives a little tease on our next episode, which will be involving some Watergate burglars.
Or all the Watergate burglars.
Or all of them, yeah.
A couple few. Yeah. Is that all you got, Joseph?
That is it for now, sir. What is our time at? A little over an hour?
Yeah, we're about an hour and coming up on an hour 10, so it'll be a good place to stop.
Yeah, we don't want to go too long.
And if you want your emails to actually get to us, it's thelonegunmanpodcast@gmail.com.
What did I say?
I don't know who gets thelonegunman@gmail.com.
Oh, okay. The Lone Gunman Podcast@gmail.com.
Yes, make sure you add the podcast.
I should probably get that right in the future.
Yes.
But as always, Mr. Rob, it has been a pleasure doing this episode with you. We got into some more J. Martins, and we are leaving the best for last. So I don't know how many more we have. There's not going to be that many, but they will be mind-blowing.
Yes, and thank you, No True Flags, for your excellent pronunciation for Joe. There it is, Joe. Do you see that? Chupatulas.
Chupatulas. Ooh.
I wasn't too far off.
I was way far off. So are you just going to tease me with pronunciation things later?
I'm going to set you up for failure at every turn for comedic purposes.
That's fine.
Yeah, it's okay.
Yes, it is. So, again, I want to thank, before Rob ends it off, I want to thank everyone who has joined us, who's going to watch us later. Again, all these files will be up on locals, and as well as our Lancer presentation. And we look forward to seeing you there. And Mr. Rob, I will let you close it out.
Yep. I wanted to thank everybody for hanging out with us today. I know it's a weird time. Like I said, look out midweek for another exciting episode. And then next weekend we'll be live again. Back with some Watergate burglar Martins. This is for you. And thanks everybody for playing along and hanging out with us and participating. It's much appreciated. And like Joe said, head over to our locals link down below where you can support the show. Check out the merch in the spread shirt store, located either below this video or over on the Lone Gunman Podcast channel. make sure you're subscribed, folks. Much appreciated. And for Joey Scarsborelli, this is Big Bad Bob. And again, it's been a pleasure. And we'll see you all next
Thank you guys again.
Peace.
Peace. Until next time, guys.